So you want an internship at a startup? Here are 5 tips to help you land that job offer. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is April Lynn. I'm a former banker turned founder, and on this channel we explore the trials and tribulations, successes and strategies to growing profitable online business and growing your audience. A few of you have asked me to do another video about startup internships, so here are my top 5 tips for finding and landing an internship at a startup. Let's get to it. The first tip is to avoid general job boards. One of the most frequently asked questions I get is how can I find an internship at a startup? Which makes sense considering that many startups don't have the funding or bandwidth to post their job opportunities in many of the popular job boards. Here's my tip. To find internships at startups, avoid searching on Handshake, Indeed, or other generic job boards. Instead, look at TenderFoot.io or AngelList. Looking on these startup-specific platforms will drastically reduce your search time. Tip number 2 is to ask anyway. Let's say you're a huge fan of a startup and you really want to intern there, but they don't have any internship opportunities posted. Should you just give up? No. To target specific startups, find their CEO and our hiring manager on Twitter. Many startup founders on Twitter have their DMs open, so use that aspect to your full advantage. It doesn't matter if a startup doesn't have a publicly available internship opportunity. If you're able to clearly demonstrate how you're able to provide tangible value to a startup, there's a good chance they'll take you. They'll appreciate your initiative to reach out too. For a step-by-step process on how to write an effective cold DM, including an example of how to write a cold DM looking for a job opportunity, check out my cold DM video here. Or here. I don't really know which corner it shows up in. The third tip is to do your research. One of the worst things you can do is apply to a whole bunch of startups without any regard for what the startup does or who its founders are. Remember, internships at startups are very different from internships at larger corporations. These startup founders have a dream. They're deeply passionate about solving a certain problem, and they believe that their startup is the way that they can make a lasting impact on the world. The startup founders will be looking for someone who is also deeply passionate about solving the same problem. If you express interest at interning at a startup, whether that be through an online application or through a cold DM, you need to be able to demonstrate why you want to work at that startup specifically. When you make it to your interview, you'll also need to be able to answer why you want to work at that startup. If you don't have an authentic answer prepared, the internship will likely go to somebody else. The fourth tip is to develop work experience. This part is huge. One of the main complaints that startup founders have in looking for interns is that the candidates are not skilled enough. To land an internship at a startup, you need to show past work experience directly relevant to the role you're applying to. This is important, so let me repeat that. To land an internship at a startup, you need to show past work experience directly relevant to the role you're applying to. This means that the academic work you've done is not enough. School projects and assignments are great for getting your feet wet and learning how to do certain things, but usually they're not good enough to land you an internship at a startup. This is because a startup work environment is very different from your school environment. There aren't set project requirements. You likely don't have the complete set of data when you're working on it. You're really building the ship as you sail it. If you've already had previous internships in the role that you're applying for, you're in a great place. But if you haven't, I have 2 words for you. Side project. And I know this seems like a catch-22. You're looking for an internship to gain professional experience, but you can't get the internship if you don't have experience. But that's why side projects are so important. You need to develop a side project that allows you to practically apply the skills that you've learned. Side projects can be a variety of things. Coding an app, writing a blog, starting a YouTube channel, redesigning company landing pages, etc. The side project itself matters far less than the ability to prove that you're able to practically apply your skills in a real-world environment. This is incredibly important to demonstrate when you're looking for a startup internship. The last tip is an interview tip. Demonstrate that you're a self-starter. When you go into your interview, you need to be able to show that you're willing to get your hands dirty, work under pressure alone, and have the initiative to take on new tasks and bring up new ideas by yourself. As a reminder, at a startup, you most likely won't be given direct supervision. This means you're often left alone to figure it out yourself. Another common startup founder complaint is that they put in more resources trying to train and guide the intern than they receive in value from the intern's work itself. Don't be that intern. You need to be able to provide value without being asked, and you need to clearly demonstrate that in your interview process. When you're answering interview questions, tie in scenarios when you worked under minimal supervision or when you saw a problem and you took the initiative to solve it rather than waiting for someone else to do it. Doing so will cue in your interviewer that you'll be able to hold your own in a startup environment. If you're seriously considering interning in a startup, I really recommend checking out this video outlining the pros and cons of startup internships. And if you like this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up and subscribe. Truly, they mean a lot. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. When you go into your interview, you need to show that you're one of the worst things you can do is apply to a whole bunch of startups.